Okay, good morning. This is the time and place for the Planning Hearing Officer's hearing of June 12th, 2019. My name is Vilia Zamaitaitis, and I will be conducting the hearing as the hearing officer. We have one case on today's agenda involving two discretionary permit applications, and all relevant exhibits are posted on the board directly behind me. The hearing will proceed as follows. I'll read the description of the application and request. I will then read the reports received from other city departments and any letters or communications that have been received also from interested parties. The case planner will make a brief overview of the case, give analysis, and make a recommendation. The applicant will then be asked to come forward, stating both name and address, and will be asked to present the case within a 15-minute time limit. And others in support of or in opposition to the project will then be asked to come forward and state their name and address and have a speaking period of 3 minutes. Lastly, the applicant will be given the opportunity to make any closing remarks or comments if desired in response to testimonies given by the preceding speakers. The hearing will then be closed and the case taken under submission. If the evidence presented in the application and at the hearing meets the required findings set forth in the municipal code, the project can then be approved or approved with conditions. If the findings of fact are not evident, then the request must be denied. After the hearing, the decision will be prepared in writing and will be in the form of a letter sent to the applicant and to all persons who responded to the public notice, either by speaking at this hearing or by submitting responses and having provided their name and mailing address. Again, the date of the decision will be the date appearing on the letter. Under the appeal provisions of the Glendale Municipal Code, the decision may be appealed to the Planning Commission within 15 days of the date of the decision. Anyone wishing to appeal may obtain forms on brochures of this procedure from the Building and Safety section in Permit Services, located on the same floor. Note that the notification of this hearing was accomplished by using public notices which were mailed to all property owners and occupants within 500 feet of the subject property. The site was physically posted and the notice was also placed in the local newspaper. Again, if you wish to speak, please write your name and address on one of the speaker cards which have been provided at the table by the front door and submit it to staff. I would like to inform everyone also that the official proceedings of the Planning Hearing Officer's hearing are being recorded and are videotaped and then made part of the public record. Which brings us to today's agenda. The project is located at 129 through 133 West Los Feliz Road. The applications are for an administrative exception, case number PAE 1904285, and variance case number PVAR 1824054. The application is to construct an approximately 57,000 square foot, 5-story medical congregate care facility on an approximately 17,700 square foot site located in the C3 Commercial Services Zone, Height District 1. First level includes a lobby, dining room, kitchen, pharmacy, and administrative areas. The second through the fifth floors mimic each other and include 18 rooms and common sitting areas. A roof deck is also proposed. And the environmental determination is that the Community Development Department conducted an initial study and prepared a negative declaration for this project. So with that said, I will look, in terms of the interdepartmental comments, which were attached to the staff report, there was nothing of major significance from the Glendale Water and Power. These would just be standard construction conditions. There was a few items from the maintenance services, urban forester with regards to street trees, nothing of significance as well. There were a number of comments from the Public Works Engineering Department. One included that there would be a 3-foot wide street dedication required on Los Feliz Road, which I believe has been incorporated into the project. Sewer capacity fees And the rest are pretty much standard public works and public right-of-way conditions, and these are all included. The interdepartmental comments were also included as conditions, proposed conditions of approval by the case planner. So with that, the case planner, Roger Kiesel, is on vacation, and I would like to turn the matter over to Mr. Kraus to make a presentation.
Thank you, Ms. Zematitis. As you mentioned, the proposed project involves the construction of an approximate 57,350 square foot medical residential congregate care living facility with 72 rooms and 144 beds on 2 vacant parcels, totaling approximately 17,700 square feet. It is located at 129 and 133 West Los Feliz Road in the C3 High District 1 zone that allows a maximum of 3 stories and 50 feet. The new building is proposed to be 5 stories and approximately 56.5 feet to the top of the parapet wall, with an additional 3.5 feet to accommodate necessary railing for the proposed rooftop deck. The applicant is requesting an administrative exception to allow the proposed project to exceed the maximum 50-foot height limit, and a variance to allow the proposed project to exceed 3 stories as permitted in the C3 Height District 1 zone. The building is set back 30 feet from the rear property line and varies from 2.5 to 5 feet at the front and side property lines. Outdoor amenities include a large outdoor garden dining area at the rear of the site and a rooftop deck with exercise activity area, seating areas, and an organic garden. The rooms will be provided on floors 2 through 5. The ground floor will contain the lobby, dining room, kitchen, pharmacy, and administrative areas necessary to operate the proposed congregate care facility. Parking will be provided in 2 levels of subterranean parking garage with 70 spaces with access from Los Feliz Road. The neighboring uses include multifamily residential to the north, zoned R1650, the Glendale Adventist Hospital to the south across Los Feliz Road, which is zoned C3 High District 3, office uses to the east, and a surface parking lot to the west, both zoned C3 High District 1. A negative declaration was prepared for the project that was circulated for a 20-day public review period, which began on March 29th and is actually ending on June 19th. No comments have been received to date. Because the noticing period does not end until June 19th, no decision on the project can be made until the noticing period has ended and staff has provided response to any comments received during that time. Staff believes the necessary findings can be made. It is recommending approval of the administrative exception and standards variance with the suggested conditions, although no sooner than June 19th. That concludes my presentation. I'll be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to invite the applicant, Mr. Rodney Kahn, to the dais for a presentation.
Good morning, Ms. Zematitis, city staff. My name is Rodney Kahn. My offices are located at 1111 North Brand Boulevard, Suite 403 here in the city of Glendale. And before I begin my presentation, I'd like to thank Mr. Kraus. I think he did an outstanding job doing that presentation. I'd also like to acknowledge the fact that he stepped in for Mr. Kiesel, who is out, so that this important project does not get delayed. As was pointed out, our property is located on Los Feliz Road. It's actually between Central Avenue and Brand. The Glendale Memorial Hospital campus is directly south of us. And that campus in that location with this project is a very important component to it. Our project is unique. It is a special needs use. And as pointed out, it's a medical residential congregate care living facility for the elderly. It's a very high demand for this type of use in our community. The plans, and if it's okay, I'd like to approach the board and kind of walk you through the project before I go over the findings. As was pointed out, our ground floor along Los Feliz Road, we've designed it in such a manner that we have a circular driveway that allows for vehicles to pickup and drop off for the elderly. So you'll see everything from shuttles to buses to various types of vehicles to be able to maneuver on site safely for pickup and drop off. We also have a driveway that leads into 2 levels of subterranean parking. The code requires, for the 144 beds, it requires 36 spaces. We're providing 70 spaces, so almost double the number of parking spaces in our 2 levels of subterranean. As you go through the entry lobby, you'll notice there's also a pharmacy. That pharmacy is for the residents, but it's also for participants from the hospital and also for the general public. That is a pharmacy that's open for everybody. As you enter into the lobby, you'll notice that there's a large common or communal dining area with some small private dining areas off to the side, restroom facilities, kitchen, laundry, and also some reception area. This has all been designed so that for these participants, for these residents, to be able to share in this kind of common living arrangement. Also pointed out on the rear is a very significant large outdoor area, and it serves 2 purposes. One, it allows the participants to be outdoors, to be dining, to be able to kind of relax and congregate in that outdoor area. Plus, it also provides a very significant setback from the property to the north. It's 30 feet set back from that northerly property line. As was pointed out, as you go up to the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th floors, they lay out very similarly. There's 18 units per floor or rooms per floor. There's 2 beds in each of the units with restroom facilities. There's also a very large common sitting area, and that is very much by design, so that these elderly residents, participants will all come out and will congregate not just in these areas, but also on their floor. And then last on each floor, as I mentioned, this is a medical congregate care. There's a nursing station. So that will be housed by a professional at all times on each of the floors that we have. As we go up to the rooftop, also a very important component to our project. We come up, there's an activity or exercise area. There will be participants. There's a large screen that we'll be able to use for displaying purposes. There's also organic gardens. And we envision this area up here actually to be a safe, secure, stable area for the elderly participants. We've noticed in other facilities, as they age, we have residents that will be from 70, 80, even up to 90 years old. The younger participants usually will venture out. They will walk and go get a cup of coffee or maybe go to the store, etc. But as they get older and older, they're restricted. And so what we wanted to be able to do was, within the safe confines of our building, be able to have outdoor space, both on the ground and on the roof. The 2 applications we submitted for, and I'll go over the findings for each of them in more detail. First is the administrative exception. And as Mr. Kraus so aptly pointed out, we're asking for additional height for this administrative exception. I mentioned about who will be housed in our facilities. And these are, we feel, residents that have lifestyle, at times, restrictions. And we've provided, in order to improve their quality of life within the facility itself, amenities that you don't typically see. And in order to provide those amenities, we need we need space to be able to do that, which is in the form of floor area, which translate into both height and stories. If you look at each of the floors, and I'll point to the section drawings, I could have done this up here, but I felt that it's important to point this out. The height for each room, the clear height, is 9 feet for the majority of the room, but near the entrance, it drops down to about 7 feet 6 inches. And the reason it does that is for air conditioning ducts, there's fire sprinklers, there's electrical conduit, fire alarm, and low voltage wiring where these drop ceilings are. So in order to create a space or a room that is livable and does not feel that it's confined, we wanted to put a little bit additional height. And we've actually spread that additional height throughout the floors. So as opposed to saying we have one very large, tall floor at the top, we didn't do it that way. We spaced it out. So it's 9 feet clear. It's a 10-foot floor because we have the deck. And then it's 9 feet clear for most of it, drops down to 7 foot 6 within the rooms. The other thing that's important to us as it relates to the height is in these common areas, both the common area on the ground floor and the common area within each floor, these outdoor sitting areas. We wanted to make sure that there was at least 9 feet in these areas. So once again, it's open but not confined. And once again, we're within reason. I think a more common average for height is anywhere between 8 and 9 feet. So we're well within that common average of height. The other thing to point out is the ground floor. The ground floor is taller, and it is by design. That's to allow, one, these types of vehicles that are coming to our site to be able to have the necessary clearance, because as I mentioned, they're shuttles, they're buses, etc. But also, once you get into the facility, these common areas, these lobbies, the common eating areas should have a little bit more height in them than just your typical 8-foot height. That creates more of a space, more of a lobby area, more of an encouragement for people to come down out of their rooms and come and congregate. And that's what we're trying to create here. Last, also pointed out as it relates to height, our rooftop. We wanted to make sure that's really important to us, that it's actually used, that it's safe. Obviously, we need safety railing up there. That, too, adds additional height to that overall height of the building. So we're proposing to go from 50 feet, which is allowed, up to the 60 feet. All of those height components come into play there. So as it relates to the findings, how will the granting of the exception result in design improvements? I just talked about the design improvements. And the space restrictions, we are restricted. We're unable to achieve these many common amenities without this additional height being incorporated into them. Last, I'd point to on this first finding, there was a section drawing that was provided, and it's not up, but it's within your packet, that shows the heights, the height of the room, the height of the entry, and how that functions and how that operates. And that is a very important component as well. Next, why will the granting of the exception not be detrimental to the public welfare? Mr. Krause touched on some of the context of the area, and I'll further elaborate. The area to our north is multifamily residential, and it houses 1-, 2-, and 3-story buildings. If you look at our building setback on that north side, our overall height of our building, including that railing that's stepped way in, is 60 feet. We have a 30-foot setback. The code requires that type of stepping or setback for buildings. We meet that. The other thing that's important is other properties and projects in the area. To the west is a parking lot, and west of that is also a service station. West of that is Vaughn's. To the east, we have 1-, 2-, and 2-story buildings of commercial nature. To the south is the campus that I spoke about. 8 stories, 5 stories, 6 stories. It's a large medical campus. So this height, this building, this land use would fit in very nicely and would not be detrimental to the public welfare. I also mentioned about parking, and that comes into play as well with this finding. The parking itself, in terms of the use, we see this as being a little bit more labor intensive because of the medical nature of it. So you will have more employees, if you will, there. So we did want to provide some additional parking. In terms of it just laying out, we were going to do 1 level or 1.5 levels, but to Dr. K's credit, he said if we're going to do a half a level, we might as well do a full level. So therefore, we end up with quite a bit of additional parking. The last, as it relates to this finding not being materially detrimental, the overall height of the building, it's not a 60-foot box. Rather, it's something very different. The architect has done an outstanding job in varying the plane, but also, as I mentioned earlier, the overall height is measured to the top of that railing. That railing, that safety railing for the rooftop, is set back in some areas 20, 30 plus feet away. So it doesn't give that impact or detrimental effect of an overall tall building. It actually steps very nicely. The third item for the administrative exception: why will granting of the exception be in keeping with the objectives of the applicable regulations? I talked about a few things. One is, this is a very unique use. I think the use itself is very special. I talked about not having a lot of these types of uses. We need these types of facilities in our community. We're going to need them more and more and more as our community is aging. In terms of the regulations that govern this, they're buffers. Why do we have setbacks? We have setbacks for air, light, ventilation between structures. I mentioned to the north, the building that's closest to us is to the north. That building we have a 30-foot setback from, and they also have their own setback. That will provide more than sufficient air, light, and ventilation between the structures. There's also elements of our general plan. The community facility element talks about these types of facilities for our aging and older residents. The land use element talks about the many benefits these types of facilities offer. And it states that these types of facilities play a vital role in our city's health. In conclusion with this application, the administrative exception, we agree with staff. We agree with the staff report that all the findings could be made. For this item, we've reviewed the different 16 conditions, and we agree to comply with all of them. I'll ask if you have any questions on this application before I go on to the next.
Thank you, Mr. Khan. Just to clarify, the proposed overall building height is 56.5 feet to the parapet,
That is correct.
with an additional 3.5-foot high railing,
Yes,
and that does not include the stairs or the elevator shafts.
that is correct.
Okay, so those will be an additional up to 15 feet as permitted by code.
That is correct.
Okay, but that is the only, you're not proposing any type of rooftop, patio covers, awnings, or whatnot, so.
No, we are not.
Okay. No, I have no further questions then on the administrative exception portion.
Okay. Then I will move on to the standards variance and discuss those findings. The variance request is for the number of stories. As I mentioned, for the administrative exception, it was related to the overall height. And for the variance, it's related to the number of stories. As Mr. Kraus pointed out, the zoning for this property is C3 Height District 1, which allows the 50 feet in height and 3 stories overall. We are proposing 5. The discussion for height and stories are very similar, but I do want to highlight the findings because although they are similar, I think it's important to note what needs to be done for this type of project. If we had no common area amenities for this property, it would eliminate a floor. If we had no common area on the floors for the people to congregate, it would eliminate a substantial amount of square footage as well. The purpose and the reason that we looked at this in the manner that we did is, what is the quality of life for the project? What makes the most sense for development of this site? And how do we put this all together and make this work? The common area amenities that we think are important to add really adds to this life experience, to this use. So when you have a common dining area, when you have a common area for people to congregate in the lobby, when you're implementing or incorporating a pharmacy and administrative offices, things like that, those areas take up square footage and space. Where do they go? They have to go within the facility, within the framework of the building itself. In order for us to do that, it wasn't just adding height, it was to add stories. I mentioned before, and some of this is somewhat repetitive because it is very linked and very common, but the height is overall governed, and so is the stories. When I talked about the setback being 30 feet away from the property to the north, whether it was 5 stories, 4 stories, or 3 stories, the impact is the height, not the number of stories. The setback that we've provided from that northerly property line is the 30 feet. That is a substantial setback. Also, between that setback, there will be landscaping. And as I mentioned before, as it relates to the height, it also relates to the stories. The property to the north varies in number of stories. There's 3 stories, there's 2 stories, there's 1-story duplexes. All of this is taken into consideration when we laid out our building. I think the 5 stories, the justification for our 5 stories, can best be described what I said earlier, which is how do we incorporate these important land uses, important components of the land use into the overall height and stories, and that's what we've done. We've created buffers, we've created setbacks. I described to you the overall height and need of the stories, and overall this is the minimum that we need in order to make this project, this very important project, work. The second, there are exceptional circumstances to the property, applicable to the property involved, or the intended use. There's nothing exceptional about the property itself. The property itself is a very, very standard lot size. It's flat, the dimensions, everything is standard about it. However, it says, or to the intended use. This use is unique. This use is special. This use is much, much desirable for this property and for this area. And it says that do not apply generally to other property in the same zone or neighborhood. We don't have any other land uses like this in this area. And that's what makes this property, this project, unique. The granting of the variance will not be materially detrimental to the public welfare or injurious to the property or improvements in such zone or neighborhood. I talked about the surrounding land uses already, so I won't repeat that. I talked about our setbacks that are very substantial and take into consideration the adjacent buildings. But I think it's also important to point out that in terms of the use itself, it's a very compatible use. It's a very welcome use because of the nature of this land use. It's not like a building that generates a lot of noise. It doesn't generate a lot of traffic. It doesn't generate a lot of activity that could be harmful or impactful to the surrounding land uses, even if they were uses on the commercial zone that are permitted. This is permitted, but this is a much more quiet, compatible land use for this area. The number of stories I mentioned as it relates to the adjacent buildings, we do have 8-story buildings to the south, 6-story buildings to the south, 5-story buildings to the south. We also have quite a variety of land uses, but specifically as it relates to the stories, this is not unique, and in fact, it would fit in nicely with the overall flow of Los Feliz Road. The granting of the variance will not be contrary to the objectives of the ordinance. The objectives of the ordinance are really to look at what the different facilities, what the land use allows, what the development standards are, and where we see the future development of those properties going as well. Right now, if you look at anything that has been newly constructed, newly being in the last decades. The newer buildings are the taller buildings, are the buildings that are looking at this transit-oriented district that's near a transportation or transit center. These are the types of buildings and facilities that should be built near these facilities. They should be taller. They should have more intense either land use, because that's where these hubs should be. The buildings that exist out there now, many of them to the north and to the east, they're older buildings. You will see these buildings as time goes on being redeveloped to taller, higher buildings. The variance also has a number of conditions of approval. I think there was one additional one or one different one, specifically as it relates to the balconies and the setbacks on the rear, which we will comply with. So there are 17 conditions of approval for this variance request. I'll conclude my remarks. If you have questions on this application, I'll try to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Khan. I certainly acknowledge the need for medical congregate care, especially when it's adjacent to one of our primary hospitals in the city. So in light of the aging population and whatnot, I'm assuming that this is more for senior medical congregate care and not just a rehabilitation type center for a temporary post-operation or whatnot.
That's correct, Ms. Zematitis, and I mentioned in my presentation the age ranges that we are actually looking to or marketing towards. It is going to be the elderly. It is not a rehab facility. It is for the elderly, and it's been designed that way.
Could you please just elaborate a little bit more in regards to the very first finding, where strict application of the 3-story limit would result in practical difficulties or unnecessary hardship inconsistent with the general purpose and
Sure.
intent of the ordinance?
Sure.
Just because I understand that you are trying to include various amenities for the residents themselves,
Right.
Common dining room, the pharmacy, and whatnot. But this finding is the one that I would like you to elaborate on a little bit
Sure.
more.
So when we're looking at stories, we're also looking at height. And we already talked about originally the height, the overall height, the component of the building. And in order for us to provide these amenities, in order to provide a lot of these types of facilities, and I mentioned not just the ground floor, but also within the building itself, throughout the building itself, whether it be for the nurses' station, whether it be for the common area, any of these types of things, is we're going to need space. We're going to need area. And in order to provide that area, we have, as you know, we have a building envelope. It's what can you get in that building envelope. From our perspective, it makes sense for us to say, kind of what you guys are doing in some of the other areas. What is the height of the building? Does it make sense that we're justifying the overall height? We think the answer is yes. Okay? Then we carried that forward. We carried it forward in saying, okay, if we can justify the height and we spread the height throughout the stories, can we also justify, and does it make sense to have more than 3 stories? For us, it does. For us, it makes a lot of sense, because if you're looking at height and you're looking at mass and you're looking at bulk, whether it's 3 stories, 4 stories, or 5 stories, the impact is what is the mass of the building. So from our perspective, we wanted to look at the number of stories and say, it makes sense to us to lay out this building in this manner. We need these minimum number of rooms in order to make this project pencil out. And therefore, in that context, we came up with the 5. Excuse me. We came up with the 5 stories. To go down to 4 stories, to go down to 3 stories, it doesn't make economic sense for us. And it doesn't make the project a better project. It just makes it less stories. If the overall height can be justified, which we've already talked about, then going down to 3 stories doesn't make sense. We need that height for the amenities we're providing for the residents.
Right. Thank you. Thank you very much. I have
Sure.
one other speaker card. Is there anyone else in the audience who would like to speak? Okay, I'd like to invite Mr. Aram Alajajian, the architect for the project.
Yes, thank you. I'm Aram Alajajian. The address is 320 Arden, Suite 120, City of Glendale. I'm a project architect. Mr. Khan did a great job. He covered almost everything. There's nothing left for me to say. But I want to concentrate on just a few features in that. I do understand we're not discussing design here. It's basically variance for the height and number of stories. However, I want to point out that this type of facility is much needed in the city of Glendale. We do similar project throughout the Southern California, and we see that aging population needs facilities like this. A congregate facility, as has been mentioned before, caters only the seniors. This is not a treatment center or anything like that. It's basically for the retiree people. And a location-wise, it basically cries for this kind of a use. It's right across the hospital. Where else do you want to have this kind of a use other than across the hospital, closer to the hospital, where that dining area that Mr. Khan has mentioned and situated on the first floor will host different doctors right from across the street for lecturing about the diabetes or blood pressure to the seniors. Besides serving the diet, it will be like a lecture room. Once in a while, the doctors will visit there and do that. As well as all the common facilities, talking about the rooftop element that we are intend to use, the intention of that, to have a place for the seniors to congregate, to walk around in the mornings and the evenings. Obviously the rooftop would be shut down after 9 o'clock, so, there's no one up there. And a couple of things I wanted to bring out about the design of the rooms. If you pay attention to the floor plans, every single room is designed as an ADA accessible. What that means that this is providing over and above the luxury, over and above the standard. So all the bathrooms are ADA, all the rooms are spacious sizes with the private balconies that faces either to the street or the backyard or the side yard. Those terraces will help the seniors to breathe the fresh air, when they open a patio door and the common floor areas, also the nursing stations. Some of the seniors do require to be reminded about the medication and the timing and all that. So the nursing stations are basically serving for that. So their medication, whoever needs it to be reminded at the time, and would be not left all the medications in their rooms. Sometimes they confuse. So the nurse would be helping them to accept those medications, take the medications on time. One other thing about the room design, that every single room has its own air conditioning units. This is why we need to drop the height in some of the areas. It's not the common air conditioning, just like any facility out there that has this common air conditioning. Every single room has the air conditioning units hidden into the ceiling area, where it provides a good temperature, controlled temperature for every single room individually. And the common areas would be obviously ventilated by itself, as a common area. Well, this is basically what I wanted to add to the presentation. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Thank you. I have two quick questions.
Correct.
The staff report and the conditions of approval mentioned that the rear balconies would need to be modified in order to meet the required 30-foot setback. So you're aware of this condition of approval, and you'll be able to go ahead and address that issue for the rear balconies?
Yeah, if you give me a moment. I think, we can comply with that. If it's not allowed to be projected within that 30 feet, so we'll basically would have to deal with that,
Okay.
Because we originally thought that some of the balconies could project into that rear setback and will not be any harm. However, if the code requires to have clear setback over 30 feet, we are willing to provide that.
Okay. So those will need to be modified or adjusted.
Yes.
Second of all, what is the average room size? You mentioned that these rooms are larger in order to accommodate
Correct.
the ADA restrooms and
The,
provide a more substantial
right.
living space.
The
but-
minimum room size is about 450 square feet. Average room size is 450.
The
We have-
averages?
Yeah, the average is 450 square feet per room. But we have larger rooms and we have fewer smaller rooms than that, which is closer to 380, 350, between 350, 380.
And then the largest sizes are
The largest are about closer to 550 square feet.
500. Is there an industry standard?
There's
Or-
no industry standard. Normally, in those type of projects, you see lots smaller rooms than this. We're really providing a large size rooms here.
All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
I see no other speaker cards. Mr. Khan, would you like a rebuttal? Or do you need a rebuttal period? No. Okay. With that, I will take the case under submission, and clearly the environmental review period, comment period has to expire before any decision can be made, so that will be after June 19th. There are no other items on today's agenda, so I'd like to close the hearing officially. Thank you very much for coming.
You got style, girl, that show is wild. In a world that cute trench coat and you're standing and posing. You got soul, you got too much soul. I just said to said to now casting your spell on me. Oh, I said to said now casting your spell on me. Oh, my love, my darling, I've hungered for your touch a long, lonely time. And time goes by so slowly, and time can do so much. All you still more. Speed your love to me. Lonely rivers flow to the sea, to the sea, to the open arms of the sea. Yeah. Lonely riverside, wait for me, wait for me. I'll be coming home, wait for me. Oh, my love, my darling, I've hungered for your touch. Oh, Lord, lonely time.
Well, all I want is a party doll. Come along with me when I'm feeling wild. To be ever loving, true and fair. To run her fingers through my hair. Come along and be my party doll. Come along and be my party doll. Come along and be my party doll. I'll make love to you. I'll make love to you. Well, I saw a gal walking down the street. The kind of a gal I love to meet. She had blonde hair and eyes blue. Baby, I wanna have a party with you. Come along and be my party doll. Come along and be my party doll. Come along and be my party doll. I'll make love to you. I'll make love to you. Every man has gotta have a party doll to be with him, but when he's feeling wild, to be ever loving, true and fair, to run her fingers through his hair, to run her fingers through his hair. Come along and be my party doll. Come along and be my party doll. Come along and be my party doll. I'll make love to you. I'll make love to you. Come along and be my party doll. Come along and be my party doll. Come along and be my party doll. I'll make love to you. I'll make love to you.
If you're feeling sad and lonely, there's a service I can render. Tell the one who loves you only, I can be so warm and tender. Call me, don't be afraid, you can call me. Maybe it's late, but just call me. Tell me and I'll be around. When it seems your friends desert you, there's somebody thinking of you. I'm the one who never hurt you. Maybe that's because I love you. Call me, don't be afraid, you can call me. Maybe it's late, but just call me. Tell me and I'll be around. Now don't forget me, 'cause if you let me, I will always stay by you. You got to trust me, that's how it must be. There's so much that I can do. Yeah, let's do it. Call me, don't be afraid, you can call me. Maybe it's late, but just call me. Tell me and I'll be around. If you call, I'll be right with you. You and I should be together. With this love I long to give you, I'll be at your side forever. Call me, don't be afraid, you can call me. Maybe it's late, but just call me. Tell me and I'll be around.
can my baby be? The Lord took her away from me. She's gone to heaven, so I got to be good, so I can see my baby when I leave this world. We were out on a date in my daddy's car. We hadn't driven very far. There in the road, straight ahead, the car was stalled, the engine was dead. I couldn't stop, so I swerved to the right. I'll never forget the sound that night, the crying tires, the busting glass, the painful scream that I heard last. Well, where, oh, where can my baby be? The Lord took her away from me. She's gone to heaven, so I got to be good, so I can see my baby when I leave this world. Well, when I woke up, the rain was pouring down. There were people standing all around. Something warm running in my eyes. But I found my baby somehow that night. I raised her head and then she smiled and said, hold me, darling, for a little while. I held her close, I kissed her our last kiss. I found a love that I knew I would miss. But now she's gone, even though I hold her tight. I lost my love, my life that night. Well, where, oh, where can my baby be? The Lord took her away from me. She's gone to heaven, so I got to be good, so I can see my baby when I leave this world.
Feel so fine, a little girl, now you're mine. Come, let me hug you, come, let me kiss you, come, let me see what I've been missing. Feel so grand, now that you come back home, where you look so good. Oh, baby, like I know you would. Come, let me hug you, come, let me kiss you, come, let me see what I've been missing. Feel so grand, now that you come back home.
Feel so fine, a little girl, now you're mine. Come on, let me hug you, come on, let me kiss you, come let me see what I've been missing. Feel so grand, now that you come back home.
Well, you look so good, oh baby, like I know you would. Come let me hug you and come let me kiss you. Come let me see what I've been missing, 'cause I feel so grand now that you come back home. Well, I feel so fine. Yes, a little girl, now you're mine. Come, let me hug you, come, let me kiss you. Come, let me see what I've been missing. Feel so grand now that you come back home. Well, I feel so fine. Yes, a little girl, now you're mine. Come, let me hug you, come, let me kiss you. Come, let me see what I've been missing. Feel so grand now that you come back home. Now that you come back home. Now
the year of five. February, you're my little Valentine. I'm gonna march you down the aisle. You're the Easter bunny when you smile. Yeah, yeah, my heart's in a whirl. I love my little calendar girl every day. Every day of the year. Maybe if I ask your dad and mom, they let me take you to the junior prom. Like a firecracker, I'm aglow. When you're on the beach, you steal the show. Yeah, yeah, my heart's in a whirl. I love my little calendar girl every day. Every day of the year. Yeah, yeah, my heart's in a whirl. I love my little calendar girl every day. Every day of the year. I like the candles at your sweet 16. Romeo and Juliet on Halloween. I'll give thanks that you belong to me. You're the present beneath my Christmas tree. Yeah, yeah, my heart's in a whirl. I love my little calendar girl every day. Every day of the year. I love my calendar girl. Yeah, sweet calendar girl. I love my calendar girl. Yeah, sweet calendar girl.
I love Corina. Tell the world I do. I love Corina. Tell the world I do. I pray every night she'll learn to love me too. Corina, Corina. Corina, Corina. Corina, Corina, I love you so. Oh, little darling, where you been so long? Oh, little darling, where you been so long? I ain't had no loving since you've been gone. Corina, 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 I love you so. I left Corina way across the sea. Oh me, I left Corina way across the sea. If you see Corina, send her home to me. Corina, 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 I love you so. Corina, 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 I love you so. Oh, darling, don't you know I love you so. Darling, don't you know?
Gonna tell you a story every man ought to know. If you want a little loving, you gotta start real slow. She's gonna love you tonight now, if you just treat her right now. Oh, squeeze her real gentle, gotta make her feel good. Tell her that you love her like you know you should. 'Cause if you don't treat her right, she won't love you tonight. If you practice my method just as hard as you can, you're gonna get a reputation as a love and a man. And you'll be glad every night that you treated her right. Hey, 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 all right, yeah, yeah, hey, every night, all right, hey, 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 all working now, one time. You're too much, baby, all right. Hey, hey.
I cry myself to sleep each night, wishing I could hold you tight. Life seems so empty since you went away. The pillow where you lay your head now holds my lonely tears instead, and it keeps right on a hurtin' since you're gone. It keeps right on a hurtin' every minute of the day, every hour you're away. I feel so lonely, and I can't help it. I don't think I can go on, and it keeps right on a hurtin' since you're gone. They say a man should never cry, but when I see you passing by, my heart breaks down and cries a million tears. You broke my heart and set me free, but you forgot your memory, and it keeps right on a hurtin' since you're gone. It keeps right on a hurtin' every minute of the day, every hour you're away. I feel so lonely, and I can't help it. I don't think I can go on, and it keeps right on a hurtin' since you're gone.
Linda was mine till the time that I found her holding Jim and loving him. When Sue came along, loved me strong, that's what I thought. Yeah, me and Sue, that died too. Don't know that I will, but until I can find me a girl who'll stay and won't play games behind me, harder to heal being where love's a small word, part-time thing, paper ring. I know it's been done having one girl who loves you, right or wrong, weak or strong. Don't know that I will, but until I can find me a girl who'll stay, won't play games behind me, I'll be what I am, a solitary man, solitary man. Don't know that I will, but until I can find me a girl who'll stay, won't play games behind me, I'll be what I am, a solitary man, solitary man, solitary man, solitary man.
Now when you're feeling low and the fish won't bite,
All my bags are packed, I'm ready to go. I'm standing here outside your door. I hate to wake you up to say goodbye, but the dawn is breaking, it's early morn. Taxi's waiting, he's blowing his horn. Already I'm so lonesome I could cry. So kiss me and smile for me. Tell me that you'll wait for me. Hold me like you'll never let me go. I'm leaving on a jet plane. I don't know when I'll be back again. Oh, babe, I hate to go. There's so many times I've let you down. So many times I've played around. I tell you now, they don't mean a thing. Every place I go, I think of you. Every song I sing for you. When I come back, I'll wear your wedding ring. So kiss me and smile for me. Tell me that you'll wait for me. Hold me like you'll never let me go. I'm leaving on a jet plane. I don't know when I'll be back again. Oh, babe, I hate to go. Now the time has come to leave you. One more time, let me kiss you, then close your eyes. I'll be on my way. Dream about the days to come when I won't have to leave alone. About the time I won't have to say. Kiss me and smile for me. Tell me that you'll wait for me. Hold me like you'll never let me go. I'm leaving on a jet plane. I don't know when I'll be back again. Leaving on a jet plane. I don't know when I'll be back again. Leaving on a jet plane. I don't know when I'll be back again. Oh, babe, I hate to go.
In the jungle, the mighty jungle, the lion sleeps tonight. In the jungle, the quiet jungle, the lion sleeps tonight. Near the village, the peaceful village, the lion sleeps tonight. Near the village, the quiet village, the lion sleeps tonight.
did too much to make her stay here. And words of love to her I never say. I guess I learned a lesson when she walked out to stay, but I'm sure gonna miss her. Sure gonna miss her. Sure gonna miss her every day. I don't suppose I ever said I love you. I found out too late that wasn't right. I'm just now realizing what I lost, that's why I'm crying, and I'm sure gonna miss her. Sure gonna miss her. Sure gonna miss her every night. I know I took her love for granted. Guess you could say my love was blind. Thought if she left that I could stand it, or else it didn't matter at the time. Heard she's found a guy that treats her better. I hope he knows that he's a lucky guy. I know the rumor's true because I saw her today, and I'm sure gonna miss her. And he was walking with her. Sure gonna miss her. Yes, I am.
Standing on the mountain looking down on the city, the way I feel is a doggone pity. Teardrop falling down the mountainside. Many times I've been here and many times I've cried. We used to be so happy when we were here above, high on a mountain of love. Night after night I've been standing here alone, weeping my heart out till cold red dawn, hoping that you're lonely and you'll come here too, hoping just by chance that I'll get a glimpse of you, trying hard to find you somewhere above, high on a mountain of love. The mountain of love, the mountain of love, you should be ashamed. Used to be a mountain of love, but you should change your name. Way down below there's a 500,000 people. Somewhere there's a church with a great tall steeple. Inside a church there's an altar filled with flowers. Wedding bells are ringing and it should have been ours. That's why I'm so lonely here up above, high on a mountain of love. The mountain of love, the mountain of love. You should be ashamed. You used to be a mountain of love, but you should change your name. Way down below there's a 500,000 people. Somewhere there's a church with a red tall steeple. Inside a church there's an altar filled with flowers. Wedding bells are ringing and it should have been ours. That's why I'm so lonely here up above, high on a mountain of love. High on a mountain of love. High on a mountain of love.
I can see clearly now the rain is gone. I can see all obstacles in my way. Gone are the dark clouds that had me blind. It's gonna be a bright
Try to see it my way. Do I have to keep on talking till I can go on? While you see it your way, run the risk of knowing that our love may soon be gone. We can work it out. We can work it out. Think of what you're saying. You can get it wrong and still you think that it's alright. Think of what I'm saying. We can work it out and get it straight or say goodnight. We can work it out. We can work it out. Life is very short and there's no time for fussing and fighting, my friend. I have always thought that it's a crime, so I will ask you once again. Try to see it my way. Only time will tell if I am right or I am wrong. While you see it your way, there's a chance that we might fall apart before too long. We can work it out. We can work it out. Life is very short and there's no time for fussing and fighting, my friend. I have always thought that it's a crime, so I will ask you once again. Try to see it my way. Only time will tell if I am right or I am wrong. While you see it your way, there's a chance that we might fall apart before too long. We can work it out. We can work it out.
Little wallflower on the shelf, standing by herself. Never had the nerve to take a chance, so let the little girl dance.
Let the little girl dance. Let the little girl dance. She never danced before, so let her on the floor. Let the little girl dance. Let the little girl dance. She wants to give it a try, so let the little girl find. She's been a little wallflower on the shelf, standing by herself. Now she got the nerve to take the chance, so let the little girl dance. Let the little girl through. She wants to pass by you, but can't you see? She wants to dance with me. She's been a little wallflower on the shelf, standing by herself. Now she got the nerve to take the chance, so let the little girl dance, let the little girl through. She wants to pass by you, but can't you see? She wants to dance with me.
Little wallflower on the shelf, standing by herself. Never had the nerve to take a chance.
Let the little girl dance.
Groovy on a Sunday afternoon. Really couldn't get away too soon. I can't imagine anything down a crowded avenue. To anything we like to do. There's always lots of things that we can see. We can't be anyone we like to be. And all those happy people we could meet just moving on a Sunday afternoon. Really couldn't get away too soon. No, 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 no. We'll keep on spending sunny days this way. We're gonna talk and laugh our time away. I feel it coming closer day by day. Life would be ecstasy, you and me endlessly moving on a Sunday afternoon. Really couldn't get away too soon. No, 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 no. Moving, moving.
If you ever leave me, I'll be sad and blue. Don't you ever leave me, I'm so in love with you. The birds in the sky would be sad and lonely if they knew that I lost my one and only. They'd be sad if you're back to me. The leaves on the trees would be softly sighing if they heard from the breeze that you left me crying. They'd be sad. Don't be bad to me. But I know you won't leave me, 'cause you told me so. And I've no intention of letting you go, just as long as you let me know you won't be bad to me. So the birds in the sky won't be sad and lonely, 'cause they know that I've got my one and only. They'll be glad you're not bad to me. But I know you won't leave me, 'cause you told me so. And I've no intention of letting you go, just as long as you let me know you won't be bad to me. So the birds in the sky won't be sad and lonely, 'cause they know that I've got my one and only. They'll be glad you're not bad to me. They'll be glad you're not bad to me. To me. To me.
It's not the way you smile that touch my heart. It's not the way you kiss that tears me apart. Oh, many, many nights roll by. I sit alone at home and cry over you. What can I do? I can't help myself. 'Cause baby, it's you. Baby, it's you. You should hear what they say about you. Cheat, cheat, sha la 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 la. They say you've never, never, never been true. Cheat, cheat. Well, doesn't matter what they say. I know I'm gonna love you any old way. What can I do when it's true? I don't want nobody, 'cause baby, it's you. Baby, it's you. Whoa, many nights roll by. I sit alone at home and cry over you. What can I do? Can't help myself. 'Cause baby, it's you. Baby, it's you. Don't leave me alone. Come on home. Baby, it's you. Baby, it's you.
They got some crazy little women there, and I'm gonna get me one. I'm gonna be standing on the corner, 12th Street and Bond. I'm gonna be standing on the corner, 12th Street and Bond, with my Kansas City baby and a bottle of Kansas City wine. Well, I might take the train, I might take the plane, but if I have to walk, I'm going just the same. Going to Kansas City, Kansas City, here I come. They got some crazy little women there, and I'm gonna get me one. Ah, but you know, yeah, mustache. Ah, yeah. Know if I stay with that woman, I know I'm gonna die. Gotta find a brand new baby, that's the reason why. Going to Kansas City, Kansas City, here I come. They got some crazy little women there, and I'm gonna get me one. They got some crazy little women there, and I'm gonna get me one. They got some crazy little...
Oh, well, a hard-headed woman, a soft-hearted man, been the cause of trouble ever since the world began. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Ever since the world began. A hard-headed woman been a thorn in the side of man. Adam told Eve, listen here to me. Don't you let me catch you messing around that apple tree. Oh, yeah. Ever since the world began. A hard-headed woman been a thorn in the side of man. Oh yeah, ever since the world began, a hard-headed woman been a thorn in the side of man. Samson told Delilah, loud and clear, keep your cotton picking fingers out my curly hair. Oh yeah, ever since the world began, a hard-headed woman been a thorn in the side of man. I heard about a king who was doing swell till he started playing with that evil Jezebel. Oh yeah, ever since the world began, a hard-headed woman been a thorn in the side of man. I got a woman, a head like a rock. If she ever went away, I'd cry around the clock. Oh yeah, ever since the world began. A hard-headed woman been a thorn in the side of man. A hard-headed woman been a thorn in the side of man.
When the night has come and the land is dark and the moon is the only light we'll see. No, I won't be afraid. Oh, I won't be afraid. Just as long as you stand by me. So darling, darling, stand by me. Oh, stand by me. Oh, stand by me. Stand by me. If the sky that we look upon
should tumble and fall, or the mountain should crumble to the sea. I won't cry, no, I won't shed a tear, just as long as you stand by me. And darling, stand by me, oh, stand by me, oh, stand now, stand by me, stand by me. Stand by me, stand by me. Whenever you're in trouble, won't you stand by me? Oh, stand by me. Whoa, stand now. Oh, stand.
'cause I love my girl. Donna, where can you be? Where can you be? Oh, Donna, oh, Donna, oh, Donna, oh, Donna. Do 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 down, doobie doo down down, comma comma down, doobie doo down down, comma comma down, doobie doo down down. Breaking up is hard to do. Don't take your love away from me. Don't you leave my heart in misery. If you go, then I'll be blue. 'Cause breaking up is hard to do. Remember when you held me tight and you kissed me all through the night. Think of all that we've been through, and breaking up is hard to do. They say that breaking up is hard to do. Now I know that it's true. Don't say that this is the end. Instead of breaking up, I wish that we were making up again. I beg of you, don't say goodbye. Can't we give that love another try? Come on, baby, let's start anew. 'Cause breaking up is hard to do. They say that breaking up is hard to do. Now I know that it's true. Don't say that this is the end. Instead of breaking up, I wish that we were making up again. I beg of you, don't say goodbye. Can't we give that love another try? Come on, baby, let's start anew. 'Cause breaking up is hard to do. Doobie doo down down, comma comma down, 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 doobie doo. Wake up in the morning with the sunshine in your eyes and the smell of flowers blooming fills the air. Your mind is filled with the thoughts of a certain someone that you love. Your life is filled with joy when she is there. Love can make you happy if you find someone who cares to give a lifetime to you and who has a love to share. If you think you found someone you'll love forevermore, then it's worth the price you'll have to pay. To have to hold important, but forever is the phrase that means I love you tears are falling, 'cause you've taken her away. And though it really hurts me so, there's something that I've gotta say. Take good care of my baby. Please don't ever make her blue. Just tell her that you love her. Make sure you're thinking of her in everything you say and do. Ah, take good care of my baby. Now don't you ever make her cry. Just let your love surround her, paint a rainbow all around her. Don't let her see a cloudy sky. Once upon a time, that little girl was mine. If I'd been true, I know she'd never be with you. So take good care of my baby. Be just as kind as you can be. And if you should discover that you don't really love her, just send my baby back home to me. Well, take good care of my baby. Be just as kind as you can be. And if you should discover that you don't really love her, just send my baby back home to me. Ah, take good care of my baby. Well, take good care of my baby. Just take good care of my baby. Oh, take good care of my baby. Big girls don't cry. Big girls don't cry. Big girls, they don't cry. Big girls don't cry. Who said they don't cry? My girl said goodbye. My oh my. My girl didn't cry. I wonder why. Silly boy. Told my girl we had to break up. Silly boy. But then she would call my phone. Silly boy. And she said, to my surprise, big girls don't cry. Big girls don't cry. They don't cry. Big girls don't cry. Who said they don't cry?
always told you that we must never, ever part. Oh, have I the right to kiss you? You know I'll always miss you. I've loved you from the very start. Come right back, I just can't bear it. I got to love and I long to share it. Come right back, I'll show my love is strong. Oh yeah. Have I the right to touch you? If I could, you'd see how much you send those shivers running down my spine. Ooh, have I the right to thrill you? You know I'm waiting till you give me the right to make you mine. Well, come right back, I just can't bear it. I got some love and I long to share it. Come right back, I'll show my love is strong. Oh yeah, all right. Have I the right to hold you? You know I've always told you that we must never, ever part. No, 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 no. Have I the right to kiss you? You know I'll always miss you. I've loved you from the very start. Come right back, I just can't bear it. I got some love and I long to share it. Come right back, I'll show my love is strong. Oh yeah, yeah.
That's when I had most of my fun back. High, 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 high. Them summer days, those summer days.
I cry at night when I want to. Out of school, yeah.
County fair in the country sun. Honey, everything is cool. Oh yeah. Hot fun in the summertime. 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 First of the fall, and then she goes back. Bye, 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 yeah. Them summer days, those summer days.
When I want to. Out of school.
County fair in the country sun, and everything is cool. Oh yeah. Hot fun in the summertime. Hot fun in the summertime.
Monday, Monday, so good to me. Monday morning, it was all I hoped it would be. Oh, Monday morning, couldn't guarantee that Monday evening you would still be here with me. Monday, can't trust that day. Monday, sometimes it just turns out that way. Oh, Monday morning, you gave me no warning of what was to be. Oh, Monday, how could you leave and not take me? Every other day, every other day of the week is fine, yeah. But whenever Monday comes, you can find me crying all of the time. Monday, so good to me. Monday morning, it was all I hoped it would be. But Monday morning couldn't guarantee that Monday evening you would still be here with me. Every other day of the week is fine, yeah. But whenever Monday comes, you can find me crying all of the time. Monday, can't trust that day. Monday, it just turns out that way. Oh, Monday, won't
I don't remember how it started.
Go to that.
Our back and forth. It always came back.
Dad!
You probably don't remember what you told me,
That was perfect.
but I heard every word.
Hi, I'm calling from the Glendale Water and Power Department. We're showing you owe a balance of $600. If you don't pay now, we're going to shut off your services.
Mom, if we don't pay this much, they're gonna cut our service.
It's a scam. Hang up the phone.
The IRS is filing a lawsuit against you in the amount of $8,140. If you don't pay this amount in the next 60 minutes, we will have a warrant out for your arrest.
Are you trying to fool an old lady? The IRS doesn't call people on the phone.
Hi, I'm calling with the Glendale Police Department. Unfortunately, your brother has been arrested and booked on assault charges.
What? Seriously?
If you don't pay his bail in the amount of $5,000 within the next 24 hours, he will be sent to a county prison.
Okay, I'll get it now.
Thank you. One moment, please. I got another one. Are you next?